Okay. All right. Okay, good. Yeah, she's good. Just making sure she can do that stuff because it's not easy.
We all have done the test, but we wouldn't probably volunteer again.
I'm in the baseline.
Just let me know when you're ready.
Whenever you guys are ready.
And you can do like a 1, 2, 3 or...
Oh, you're already going.
Okay.
We'll edit you out later.
Hello, my name is John Gyorke. I graduated here in the HFMG program in May of 2015. And here's Dr. Andrew Hart.
I'm Andrew Hart. I'm a graduate of University of Georgia. I did exercise science athletic training there. I went on to physical therapy school at what was then Medical College of Georgia, and now I'm the area coordinator of sports medicine for Physiotherapy Associates. And Brian?
I'm Ryan Taglieri. I am a market manager for Physio. I've worked for the company for 16 years. I did my PT studies at William Jesuit University, and I also have a Master's of Science in Exercise Physiology at the University of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so we're excited to be here today. It's a subject that I'm passionate about. I've growing up, what kind of brought me into the field of rehabilitation is I've had 10 knee surgeries. I had osteochondritis dissecans, and kind of led to a series of surgeries over the years. And it's exciting to see how technology changes, and technology changes the way that we can do things as biomechanists and as physical therapists and athletic trainers and all those things. So basically today, what we'd like to go through is some of the movement science that is coming out recently, and then go into kind of the wearable technology that we're using, as well as some of the preventative programs that we're doing in our clinics and with other sports teams across the country to help correct some of these common impairments that put an athlete at risk. Before I get going, if you guys don't mind, if you guys could maybe tell me briefly your background and your interest in being here specifically. I'd love to hear that. Maybe starting with you, Melanie.
Well, I'm the HFMG director, and so this is of interest in terms of bringing more awareness to prevention of injuries. I think it's a great way to introduce technology as well, perhaps in the classroom, see if we can grasp a synergy with that. We have athletes and non-athletes in the program, so I think it will reach out to a good spectrum of the population students we have here.
Great.
Hi, my name is Johnny. I'm a senior. I'm graduating in May of 2018. Class seemed pretty interesting. I wanted to see what y'all, what the class are, what kind of exercises y'all talking about, what is going for.
Cool.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm Danielle Salon. I'm a health and science major. I'm here for extra credit, but I'm also here to learn something new. So
there you go. I'll take it.
I'm Ricardo. On the sport complex in Madonna, Lee Sport Complex, softball and baseball. I also have a lot of summer ball teams I coach. So I'm here to kind of figure out the PCLs, safety and stuff like that, and extra credit as well.
Great, thanks. Thanks for coming.
My name is Abby, and I'm a junior. I'm a nurse's major, and I health and fitness management minor, and I'm here for extra credit too.
There you go.
Moroni, health and fitness management major, graduating in May. We can go further into physical therapy as well, so this will help out with that.
Wonderful.
Moroni is actually also a research lab assistant.
Okay.
My name is Henry Chong. I'm a research professor in HFMG. Yes, I'm also interested in research. I would like to use that result for my research.
I'm Maggie Zaloni. I'm a biology major and I've been student assistant of the
These are all my students that are I don't know exactly why they're here. It's all one grade, so I've actually had 2 ACLs done, so yeah. Huh?
Well,
I have external shots I can show you too. On my second one, they actually took the shots from outside the knee to look down in.
oh wow.
So
Yeah, that'd be neat. Very good. Well, thank you guys for sharing that. It's always good to kind of know the audience and who we're talking to as well. So the first thing I'd like to go through is just some statistics. We'll kind of start there. Maybe some a few different research articles on epidemiology and things of that nature. Then we'll go into a little bit more biomechanics and move on from there. Before we get going, this was the Athletic Movement Index, which is one of the things that we'll be talking about today, along with the IMU, the Dorsa-V software that we're using. It was developed within our company. This guy right here in the middle is Trent Nessler. He's our National Director of Sports Medicine Innovation. So his goal is to keep us in the front and center of innovation in sports medicine and make sure that we're the best that we can be. On the right there is Dr. Andrews, and on the left is Kevin Wilk. Kevin Wilk's pretty prevalent in a lot of athletic training literature and things like that as well. Our company is in with Dr. Andrews, and they do these in his facilities as well with their athletes and professional athletes, collegiate athletes, and all that stuff. So this data is a little dated, but I believe in 2015 there was about 300,000 plus ACL injuries in the United States. It was a direct annual cost of about $5 billion. And research shows that about 79% of these people will have arthritis and then within the next 12 years, and then a re-injury rate of 20%. So that 20%, it tells me that somewhere along the way that we're falling short, you know, and I would argue and guess based off what we see here in the literature that it's actually on the rehab side of things, and that we could actually positively impact and our rehabilitation and decrease that number with proper rehab. Feel free to chime in with any questions, or if you guys got anything to add as well, feel free. In the American Journal of Sports Medicine, also when we're looking at this, these are all pretty well-known journals that we'll be talking about, as well as pretty recent. So we're not going to be digging for a lot of, out of a lot of low-quality journals here. So here at the American Journal of Sports Medicine, athletes are less likely to be recruited. So if you have an athlete, maybe he's operating at this level, and he's torn his ACL, and then somebody right here, who hasn't torn their ACL, based off this research here, that you're at an 8-fold increased risk of injury during that D1 career. You have more MRIs and more surgeries and 50% more time on the DL. Who are you more likely to get? The guy who's operating at this level and playing at this level, who tore his ACL already, or maybe the guy just below him who hasn't? I would argue that definitely most likely to be that guy who's not quite as good, but seems to be a little healthier. In 2014, there was increased depression in these athletes, decreased GPA, increased obesity, and decreased graduation rate. You're pulling these kids out of their whole culture. If you got a football player, a D1 football player who tears his ACL, normally he goes home and his family, his grandparents, his cousins, his friends, everyone's talking to him about football. This time when he goes home for the holidays because he tore his ACL, they're not talking about what he did last weekend or a month ago. They're asking him about his knee, and it's very easy to get very focused on that. So you're pulling them kind of out of their culture, and it's not just affecting them physically, but it's affecting a lot of other things in their life as well. They also developed kinesiophobia, fear of movement. So one thing that we always want to encourage is safe movement. So what we're going to do here today and what we're trying to do is, one, give these athletes more confidence that they can get out there and that they can move safely. So this is a research article that looked at the average Division I college football team. This was one of the largest third-party administrators in the country. So basically what we're looking at here is non-contact athletic claims. So this is taking contact and non-contact upper extremity injuries, neck back injuries, head injuries out of play. It's also taking contact to lower extremity injuries out of play. And you can see here how high the percent of claims were for just non-contact to lower extremity claims. And then you also see here that they account for about 51% of the total claims that are paid by these third-party administrators. So it's you're talking about a large amount of injuries here that can occur. You see here that the average third-party administrator payment is about almost $250,000. So really almost $1 million over the course of the 4-year period that they're looking at there. So and that only represents 20% of the overall health care costs. So because that's the third-party administrator paying on that. So we'll look at the NFL injuries. I know it's always a hot topic, you know, in football is looking at this. So in these 4 years, there were 202 ACL injuries, and 147 of those were non-contact, which research is actually telling us that that those are potentially preventable, and about 80% could be preventable. So you're talking the difference between 118 potentially preventable ACL injuries in the NFL. So going from 202 down to maybe 84. Any idea how much an ACL tear in the NFL costs the average NFL team?
$1 million.
Boom.
How many?
$1 million.
1 million, yeah. So, yeah, that's right. So potentially $118 million extra spent by the NFL just in those ACL repairs. So 66% of those injuries occur in these 5 positions. So you kind of see some of the big guys, and then also some of the skill players there. So some of our clients with football teams, they've actually just had us come in and test these players with the software that we use and administer our program with those players as well. So yeah. Any questions so far? No?
So I think you'll see that when we're talking injury prevention with these schools and these teams, even club teams, you show them those percentage of dollars that they could save in their athletic departments. It's pretty staggering. So, you know, there's some research we're gathering now to kind of show that in implementing this type of system before and after, and seeing how the decrease in injuries are over a season, and exponentially you can see what you can save in university or even a pro sports team in rehab and dollars and time lost out on the field. So it's not just performance. So it speaks volumes to those people that write those checks.
Yeah. And we'll, yes sir.
Are those statistics showing, also saying with them, is that them just playing the game or at practice also getting injured?
My understanding is that's all together.
It's all together.
Yeah, those are injuries all together. That's a good question. Yeah, and to Brian's point, we'll also look at some of those stats later as far as different universities and programs we've worked with, and how we've been able to change their risk of injury over the years. So here, in this article, basically the big point here was that 40% of the ACL injuries that occurred in the NBA were in the fourth quarter. So when they were in the fatigue state, their movement quality was going down. They were more likely to get injured. After these 86% of the athletes returned to play, they had less minutes played, they had less points scored, less rebounds. So not just did they return to play, but they didn't return at the same level, So one of our goals as well, it used to be that in athletic training literature and all that stuff, kind of the gold standard was return the athlete to play. And now we want to be better than that because we're seeing statistics like that 20% of ACL tears that re-tear. So now it's not just are they returning to play, but are they returning to play at the same level they were at pre-injury. So here, this is a Olympic weightlifter that we did AMI testing on, which is the testing that we'll talk about later. I think we're all familiar with this, but for our YouTube watchers out here, the risk of ACL injury, the #1 predictor of risk is this valgus moment where that knee is going in. And you can actually see in this weightlifter, when she is, let me see if I can get that back up going again here. When she's coming up from her squat, that's actually where she loses force and momentum as well. It makes sense that any force going in is not force that's going up, it's not force that's going out. So with her, we were able to diagnose her using the AMI, give her a training program, and increased her lift by 2 kilograms, which was the difference between not medaling at all and a gold medal for her. So, which is pretty cool. Are we all familiar with the functional movement screen here? It's basically, and you guys may be familiar with this already, but more and more that comes out about the functional movement screen, it's saying more so that it's not a good predictor of injury. It may be a good predictor of movement, but it's not a good predictor of injury, and it should not be used for injury prediction. Again, here you got the Journal of Sports Physical Therapy, Journal of Athletic Training, American Journal of Sports Medicine, British Journal of Sports Medicine, just time after time saying, that's not what we want to use. It's not the best bet. For a while, that's what it was being used for, but we're going to try to improve on that. We can do better. So basically what this slide here is saying is they took a group of firefighters through the FMS, had them do it, and then gave them a little bit more verbal cueing, and then had them do it again. And it changed their scores by almost by 12.4% there. So it just goes to show how even just the smallest bit of cueing can alter these tests. So it's not, down here it says it's suggested that observed movement may not solely reflect dysfunction. There can be different factors like who's administering the test and things like that. So our goal again, we want to do it better. We want to have an evidence-based solution, a comprehensive approach that drives intervention. We want it to be efficient and scalable, because if we're going to have an impact on sports teams and things like that the way we want to, time is of the essence. They don't have a lot of time to commit to a program like this, so it's got to be efficient for them. And of course, we want to impact the risk and athletic performance for these athletes in a positive manner. So what we wanted to do is look at the biomechanics literature, find out, what the risks were, and find out a good way to diagnose that, and then from that develop a good intervention. So we'll look here at the assessment portion first. So going into the biomechanics a little bit, sometimes you need a research article to tell you if you hit your thumb with a hammer, it's going to hurt. if you shift your weight during a squat, it turns out that you have more force going through that side and more muscle recruitment on that side. Pretty crazy, right? But on that other side, if you're not using that other side as much as you can, you're gonna be losing some performance. You're not using it as much, and obviously you won't be as balanced. This other article in the British Journal of Sports Medicine, it says if you can improve the efficiency of a squat, you can increase the vertical jump and sprint speed as well. So these will be kind of go into what we look at with the athletic movement index. As I mentioned earlier, frontal plane motion, that valgus moment is the #1 predictor of ACL risk. The control of frontal plane motion is the best indicator of risk once again. And then also, I think this one's really interesting, but stability in single limb is the best indicator of performance in sport. So again, we're not just looking at the risk of injury, but we're looking at things that could potentially affect somebody's ability to perform at a higher level as well. Basically, what biomechanics literature is telling us is, first of all, you want to have a less than 10-degree movement from varus to valgus of the knee to have less risk of an ACL tear. There's also speeds, obviously, so if you're at greater than 10 degrees magnitude, you're going to be at risk. Now, if you're doing a single leg squat and you're at greater than 20 degrees per second, as well as greater than 10 degrees magnitude, you're going to be at greater risk. Maybe you're less than 10 degrees here, but you're still going in at 40 degrees per second while performing a single leg squat. You're still at risk. So obviously, the greater the magnitude, the greater the force, greater the risk. Single leg hop, that's just standing on one leg, hopping and landing. If your knee goes in at 100 degrees per second or greater than 100 degrees per second, you're at a greater risk. And then a hop plant, 135 degrees per second. Once again, when you're fatigued and in a fatigued state, you're going to have a decreased quality of movement, and you're going to have increased frontal plane motion and increased risk as well. Something you'll see in the literature as well is limb symmetry with return to play. So this is actually something that this software kind of gives us a new look at limb symmetry. It used to be that we used isokinetic testing to do that, but now we'll have a different way to kind of quantify limb symmetry. Any questions or anything to add so far? No? Good. All right. Now this is a MMA athlete here that we've done the testing with. The research here, if you can increase core strength, you decrease risk and increase performance. This first research article looks at lumbopelvic motion, I believe in UCL injuries in the elbow. And it basically says that if you can improve and have more core stability, that you can decrease risk of UCL injuries in pitchers and also increase their performance as well. And these other ones, I believe these ones are addressing the similar ones with sprint speeds and verticals as well. But yeah, so you increase core strength and you decrease the risk there.
So one thing that the software in the AMI does is mainly look at closed kinetic chain lower extremity functioning. But you can see in this application, you have a pitcher or upper extremity athlete that you could actually do the testing to correlate that with how well is their core performance, how well is their lower extremity performance, because we're seeing an epidemic, obviously, of Tommy John surgeries, and they're looking at every day upper quarter and finding out that really lower quarter mechanics are affecting a lot of that, which, in a right-handed pitcher, left glute stability when they step and they throw is where we're finding where a lot of the problems at. And there's a lot of multitudes of things as far as when they pitch and how much they pitch and all those things. But what's been the difference, and we're finding that these athletes just aren't as strong as they were in years past or in decades past. So correlating some of this core stability and lower extremity is also helping out our upper extremity athlete injuries too.
Yeah, and we'll get in a little bit more. We always kind of start with ACL. It's kind of what everyone thinks about when it catches the eye or whatever. But this next research article, basically, we're looking at the same motion here. You can see this soccer player, pretty elite soccer player here. You see how bad that valgus moment is there. She actually was not rehabbing her knees, but if you look at her left ankle there, you can see how that similar movement pattern could put somebody at risk for a lateral ankle sprain there. So basically what this research article showed is that that same weakness that leads to risk in ACLs also puts you at risk for an ankle injury. And that's a pretty strong correlation there. So obviously, there are different demographics that put you at risk. I think this audience is probably pretty familiar with this, so I won't spend too much time there. We will talk about concussion a little bit. So this is actually something that's coming out in the literature a little bit more. Basically this is research study after research study, basically saying that, look, here you got 2.5 greater times risk for lower kinetic chain musculoskeletal injury, 1.6 to 2.9% greater risk for lower kinetic chain injury, up to 2 years post-concussion. See, in this research study, it found that when somebody's walking, there's an increased displacement after a concussion of their center of mass. Typically, when we run, things don't get better. I would anticipate that it might negatively impact the running gait as well. Again, more and more risk. 1.6 times greater risk, 2.2 times greater risk. Let's see, the other one is increased risk for NFL players of knee or ligament injury, all post-concussion. So kind of makes us think that even for those athletes, for those concussed athletes, that there's more to consider than just their brain function and making sure they're clear to play there. Maybe we ought to look at the lower extremity and overall movement patterns of that individual post-concussion. So there's a number of ways that we can assess these things. One is the good old-fashioned eyeball. They're trusty, but they have their limits. 2D video, I'm sure we're probably familiar with Dartfish and apps like that we can use. It's great to be able to slow down. Biomechanics Lab, it's the gold standard, but we just don't always have access to that. It's an expensive endeavor. To, one, to have the lab, and two, to get people in and get them tested and all those things. So we're really trying to be at the forefront of the wearable technology, which is pretty cool. It's pretty cool that we have that emerging here. So they're called inertial measurement units. These are research studies that basically support the use of them for the different moments that we look at, and motions that we look at with the athletic movement index, saying that they're quantifiable. This is the software that we use, and the units that we use is the only medical grade FDA approved device. So we use the dorsal V sensors here, and we combine it with 2D technology and 3D video. So here's the sensors here. Basically the way that these work, one, they can read off each other. So you can look at lumbar flexion extension and you can also look at rotation that occurs off it. They also kind of read off the earth as well. So you can look at angles, speed at which you might be going varus to valgus and things like that. Any questions so far? So it's pretty cool. The software, when we're loading somebody in the software, we ask all different types of demographic information about concussion or different types of lower extremity injuries that have occurred in the past, age, sport, frequency of exercise, things like that. What's going to be great from that is a few years down the road, when we get all these pre-tests and post-tests of athletes, we're able to really data mine the heck out of it and figure out, whatever it is we want to know. So the Athletic Movement Index, basically, it's a test that's really meant to fatigue somebody. So this is what we created to try to improve upon all of our current tests and measures. So first of all, we want to look at core strength. So this is not just mitigating injury risk, but it's also there for improvement in sports. But we also we want to look at the plank. This is just a plank off the feet together and on the elbows. A full squat test. These are all with the sensors on the low back and the side plank. So basically, we're able to see how much deviation occurs during those movements, how much flexion and extension occurred in those movements. The test all combined is really meant to fatigue the athlete because we want to see how the individual moves in the fatigue state. So we first of all, we go through these, and then we start here on the right side, and we do a single leg squat and single leg hop test, single leg hop plank test. So it's 10 single leg squats, 10 single leg hops, and the hop plan is hopping out, hopping back, hopping out, hopping in, going through that twice. And then an ankle lunge test, which gives us an idea of ankle dorsiflexion. And then we repeat all the same stuff on their left side. So again, these are things that we look at in the literature, and we know that weakness in these areas and impaired movement patterns in these areas can put somebody more at risk for these injuries. So the scoring is 336 points total, 123 on the right and 123 on the left there, and then the rest is the lumbar movements there. So the different things that we're looking at here that goes into our score is the speed at which these motions occur, the demographics, and magnitude as well. So this is an Olympic athlete right here, and it just goes to show that even our elite athletes just aren't immune from these different types of movement patterns. So for her, you can see when she's doing the double leg squat up there, her lateral shift that occurs, and you can see that valgus moment in that knee as she's performing the single leg squat.
So interesting about that, you just would assume that your higher level athletes would perform better, and it's not always the case. Actually, the more you train, the more likely you are to have muscle imbalances. Again, kind of laughs at what we do in prevention and athletic training with the technology we have. The occurrence of some of these injuries is no less; it's actually becoming more. So, what are we missing with it? And interesting about the why behind the what behind the test. Why do we do all the left and do all the right leg? We want to fatigue that area, right? We don't want to give you much rest in between. We want to see how you do in the fatigue state. And, I believe, Andrew, there's also a fatigue protocol that when they do the testing on some athletes, where they actually pre-fatigue you before you even take the test, just to see how your movements are, because when you're fresh, your movements are going to be different than when you're fatigued. So I think all of us that did the testing and didn't do the fatigue protocol before it were plenty fatigued at the end. So
I was sore for like 4 days.
There's a way to
so get ready.
to make that functional for your athletes, because we talked about the study about the injuries in the fourth quarter, so you can do that with some of your athletes and simulate that.
So we also do look at pelvic control and loss of balance with these tests as well. You know, if they're getting a lot of compensation out of the pelvis, or moving, you know, maybe dropping the other hip, they're going to potentially put themselves at risk for more like hip labral tears and things like that. So we want to kind of look at all these things. Future generations of the unit are going to include pelvic sensors, kind of with some of these tests as well, to kind of advance on what we're already trying to build upon. So this is an example of the report that's drawn up for the squat here. Basically, you can see here that this athlete had a 20-degree lateral shift to the left, and then had 33 degrees of lumbar flexion when they went down. So they were okay on the lumbar flexion, but they really had a pretty strong lateral shift to the left. So we know then that they're putting more forces through that left side. You know, they're not using that right side optimally. So you can imagine how that might affect, you know, sprint speeds and verticals and things like that. Each test is kind of mapped out here. You can see 17, 26, 18, 20, 17. So you can look and kind of see if there are some outliers in there and how that might affect your scores as well. And then same thing down there with the lumbar lateral shift. And this was actually a Division I running back that was cleared to return to play, going back with that terrible lateral shift. Let's see, so here up top is the plank test, and then down below that's the single leg hot plant. So for the plank test, I haven't seen in the literature where it necessarily puts a number on it, but it, you know, obviously we talked about the literature that says lumbopelvic control, you know, can help decrease risk of injury as well as improve performance. So right now what we're looking at is trying to have less than 10 degrees flexion extension during this plank test. That's a minute-long test, and rotation as well. And you can see kind of how these units will gather data throughout the whole thing. This is kind of a refresher on what we went over earlier over there. But if you look over here, this is the report that you'll see on the single leg hot plant. You can see on the left side that they had 26 degrees total frontal plane motion, and on the right side they had 50 degrees total frontal plane motion. That's a lot. You know, that's I actually, you know, I've run this test a lot and I haven't seen it get near 50, but that's, you know, that athlete's at a lot of risk there. You can also come over here and see the speed where it's 198 degrees per second that they're going from varus to valgus, and then on the right side 325 degrees per second. So based off this, I definitely would not want this athlete returning to play. But you can see the depth at which it looks at these things. You know, it's a for the clinician, you know, it just opens up a whole new world of how we can look at return to play, which is pretty cool. We also have a tibial inclination over here, which we want to be over 30 degrees there. We correlate tibial inclination with ankle dorsiflexion because it's the sensors are actually on the tibia, and the tibia is going forward, but we can't say it's true dorsiflexion just because it's not reading with the foot as well. So again here, we can use this for clinical decisions, not just, you know, return to sport, but let's say somebody's 4 months post ACL tear and doc's looking to get a little bit more aggressive, but we're still seeing some things that that we're just not confident that this athlete's ready to start doing plyometrics or something like that. We can now have hard data to make sure that these athletes don't just return to sport, but return to sport safely. We can also look at limb symmetry now in a different way than isokinetic testing might allow us to do with this data as well, which is pretty cool. Any questions?
I think it's good to know too, you don't have to do the entire test on the participant. You have a post-op, I had a post-op Achilles tear, Georgia State basketball player, and she hadn't started any plyometrics yet. But we were able to do the squat test, so obviously the plank testing, the single limb testing, we just didn't do any of the dynamic testing on hops and hop plants to get some good baseline data, and then when they were cleared, we could add that into testing too. So you can do partial testing, and we will do it on some of our just average Joe and Jane patients, just to kind of get some idea. And it helps us, because when we send the patient back to the doctor, and the doctor's looking to discharge them, we have objective data to say they're still at a risk for re-injury. So we're seeing it not just with our ACLs, our total knee replacements, our hip replacement patients. So it has a lot of applications in our field, but it's good objective data, and the doctors are really interested in seeing that. Like you said, the old isokinetic testing was the only standard we had. Or you could do a functional movement index, but most of that testing is subjective, yes or no. Can they do that? There's no real actual data to show them on that. So.
But wait, there's more. We can do a running test as well, which is actually, it's pretty cool. So basically what we can gather is initial peak acceleration and ground reaction forces with the units as well. So this is with the units on the tibia there. So ground reaction force is the force going at mid stance, and initial peak acceleration is at a heel strike. You can see which side, how long they're contacting the ground on each side, average speed, distance, cadence, things like that. So for some of your elite runners or even return to play, you can use this data in there as well. So you can actually get an athlete, a soccer player out there on the field running, and you can see, okay, that that's pretty significant offloading onto the right versus the left there. This girl tore her left ACL. There's some things that we need to work on with her as well. Sometimes this can be as minor as, hey, when you're running, you're tending to shift to your right a little bit. Let's focus on bringing you back. Runners are, they're serious people, and you got to be careful when recommending changes in their gait and things like that. But it's definitely good objective data there as well. So now we've kind of gone over the assessment, the reason we felt the need to develop the assessment, and now we'll take a look at the intervention here. So what do we want to do? We want to have a standardized program, equipment, and instruction. Obviously, if you don't have standardized instruction or equipment, it's there's so many variables. How do we know that we're sending the same message across the board, especially as we're trying to really scale something like this? It's got to have reproducible results. Again, it's got to be efficient, and it's got to have the ability to progress. It can't be a one-size-fits-all, because again, if we're looking at a football team, wide receiver might perform very differently than an offensive lineman, and we need a way to be able to account for that. Okay, so American Journal of Sports Medicine, with training you can reduce peak valgus moment. This next one is really interesting. It's also the American Journal of Sports Medicine. They looked at 10 injury prevention programs. They found that they were most effective when they included these 4 components, but none of them had all 4 of those components. So one of our goals was to create a program that did have all 4 of those components. Most effective if done in a fatigue state. So obviously, we want to figure out, when those athletes are fatigued, and we want to train in the right way to give them more endurance throughout the game, and so that they have a high quality movement throughout practice or throughout the game. And there was most compliance if it was less than 20 minutes. So you'll see with our program, what we have is a 5-minute pre-practice or pre-competition routine, which is mostly just dynamic stretching, something that coaches would get out there and do in the first place anyway. And then 15-minute post-practice routine, which is really the fatigue state training. This American Journal of Sports Medicine article said that with the implementation of these programs, you can decrease injury rate and days on the disabled list and average days on the DL. Everyone good so far?
Yeah.
Good. So we have an ACL Play It Safe kit that's out there. It has standardized equipment, standardized instruction. We actually have an app on the phone that has all 4 levels of our program. So we can do the dorsal V testing for our athletes, help put them in an appropriate level for them, and then successful completion of those levels, they can progress to the next level. Most of our athletes are going to start somewhere in the 1st or 2nd level. Very few of the athletes will get to the 4th level ever. But there is a standardized progression there. Again, 5 minutes pre-practice, 15 minutes post-practice. We have inserts that go in there that also kind of tell the exercise. One of the benefits with the app as well is that there's videos on the app. So it's not like we're going and teaching an athletic trainer or teaching a coach or strength and conditioning coach or something like that. We can do that, and we do that, but we're also saying, hey, each athlete can have this on their phone, and they can get standardized instructions and have the same message each time. So you're not playing this game of telephone. You're given the same instructions each time. So in our kit, there's a Thera-Band Clx band, tubing and padded cuffs, stability trainer for balance, and biofreeze. So the Thera-Band Clx band, have y'all seen those yet by chance? They're relatively new to the market, 4 years old or so now. But basically what it allows you to do, the CLX is actually continuative loops throughout the Thera-Band. So you can actually use those loops to wrap the Thera-Band around your leg and up around your core so that it kind of creates that valgus moment, and that when you're taking people through these exercises that they have to resist that as they're doing it. So I know this is probably hard to hear, so I'm not too worried about that, but he's given instructions. This is actually one of the pre-practice routines here, just a dynamic stretch here.
She's going to extend that front knee, she's going to extend that back knee, she's bringing her heel to the ground, trying to make sure that her hips are pointing straight ahead. She's going to hold that for 3 seconds, go ahead and lunge through. On the lunge through, it's critical that her knee is not moving into a valgus. And then she's simply repeating this on the opposite side, making sure that she's keeping her thigh against her shoulder as much as she can throughout the entire motion. That'll push the flexion. And she comes back through, big long lunge, controlling that knee, elbow down towards the arch of the foot, making sure her hips are in good position, her foot's in good alignment, stride position, making sure that she's trying to touch that back heel, not opening up her hips, lunging all the way through, controlling her knee throughout the entire motion. Great job.
So down here, you can see this is some of the Brazilian Olympic team doing some of this. I guess in Brazil, some of the special ops teams for military and Olympic teams will do some training together. So we're actually doing a study on about 700 Brazilian Olympic athlete / military personnel down there. So again, it's standardized. It tells you sets and reps. But it kind of breaks that down for you. All on that, but this is how it looks on the app there. And this is just kind of summarizing what we just said there. So these are actually teams that we have launched these programs with, and actual data that we've come up with. And basically what we do is comparatively what we're doing is I believe it's 3 years pre the implementation of the program is what we're comparing our data to with the implementation of this program. So for Samford University, there was almost a 60% reduction in lower connective chain injuries over the 2-year period that we did it. 60% reduction in days on the disabled list. Any thoughts on why there's less time on the disabled list? Theory is we're not having surgeries, as many surgeries, so you know, not just there are less injuries, but they're less severe when they're occurring there. So we saved them over $200,000 in the 2 years that we were with them. So this was prior to having the software. So they were assessed doing the athletic movement index with 2D version, like some sort of video app. And then also the ACL Play It Safe program. And that's been refined a little bit since then as well. We've done it with Division I men's and women's basketball at Lipscomb University. And that was 52 athletes. There was a 38% reduction in total days on the DL and almost a 50% reduction in total recordable injuries for them. That was also the 2-dimensional version. Troy University, they had their lowest number of recordable injuries in 8 years after they implemented this program, and they cut days on the injured reserve by 60%. It was the first time in history that team was ranked number 25, and they also won a bowl game that year, which was their best seasonal performance. So can we say that we got them to that point? Not necessarily, but perhaps by keeping the better players in longer and keeping them healthier, we played a role in it. So, pretty cool. Then we have Division II soccer. We started with Gaiman University with just the women's soccer team, and I believe this was 2 years ago, and I believe after they saw the savings and the decreased injury rate, I believe Gaiman University went ahead and brought us in to do all like 400 of their athletes.
Entire program.
Yeah, their entire program. So, but these were the results from the women's soccer team. Decreased injury rates by 65%, almost 70% less days on the DL, and you can see the total savings over those years. So these are some of the current customers that we've had, and the list is continuing to grow. Thanks. Any questions?
With some of the risk factors for female, I was interested because there's not much on the literature about when a female is menstruating, because that creates a lot of fatigue, and that's usually, at least I get them in my sports like practice where they come back after injury and they're trying to get back to performance. And we talk about when it happened, and it seems to have a pretty high correlation with the fact that they were in that period of, the month where this was happening. And so I saw all the risk factors, but I didn't see it listed, and I would be interested in, really working with female athletes and looking at when those injuries are happening and if a potential training like this could affect.
When that time hormonal levels change too, release of relaxin to the ligaments to make them more relaxed. And so, I think there is some data out there. I'm not sure how much it's been studied, or definitely hasn't been studied with this type of apparatus, but that would be interesting.
It would be, and I've heard that recently. I believe from another physician I was talking with as well, specifically about females menstruating and effects on that as well. So definitely, that's one of the cool things about this technology and about the research is, I think all this is just opening up more and more doors for us to data mine and learn and, and see how we can help, help these kids, help these athletes. So
I mean, the savings are impressive. I think any team would want that, especially with smaller budgets, you know, like D2 schools, they don't function on a lot of money, and injuries happen. So I think it's great.
Well, and it's the same thing we've talked about with corporate wellness that we've done, trying to, you know, implement type of programs or bring prevention in. You know, once you tell them how much they're going to save with this type of programs, less, you know, employees are healthier, they call off work less, they're more productive. You know, when that stuff starts coming out, companies start seeing that savings. That's when, or insurance companies too, that's when they start perking up. And so I'm trying to give this presentation, you have people semi-interested when they see the cost savings, especially the people that write the checks, they definitely, you know, saw the interest. I know one program, and I don't even know if this happened, maybe Andrew, you could say, but he basically made a proposal. Hey, we'll just take a percentage of the money you save next year in ACL injuries. And I think it asked for like 1%. I think they had saved like $1 million in ACL. So, you know, everybody wins. They saved $1 million. You know, we got paid a percentage of what that cost savings was. So it just goes to show you that, you know, if you implement something that's been researched, it's definitely going to be a win-win for everyone. And so, you know, this is the only software out there that now gives us measurables, gives us objective data. It just isn't hearsay or anecdotal. So, and that's what people want to see now. They want to see that quantifiable data to go with it. So, and it's a nice wow factor too. I think athletes like it, parents like it, because they can see the test scores. I've done it on some of my neighbors' kids, and they wanted their friends to do it too, because it's very competitive with them. So we have to watch it when we do it in mass testing, to watch, because you get some of the kids there trying to throw them off while they're doing some of the single leg squats. So we have to really be really standardized with it, because, you know, it gets very competitive.
Right.
Yeah, I believe the Giants were the example that I used, that they actually brought us in to test the 66% of the athletes, the 5 positions, to implement our programs with them. You know, so, you know, there's a number of things that we've done for these sports teams in a number of different ways. We kind of have worked with them, but it's pretty cool.
And what phase of their cycle you say they got hurt?
Sorry?
What phase of their cycle did they get hurt?
When they were menstruating. Yeah.
So well, that's
Right. So they were right before, you know.
Yeah, that's
So that,
yeah, mid-follicular estradiol.
So, but the fatigue levels,
Yeah.
if you can correlate that, then you may be able to strengthen.
Well, that's what one of the projects we were looking at, they just deal with the follicular phase, compare the protective mechanism of estrogen and muscle damage. And here's a trend that high estrogen levels protect the muscles that are high in that strength. So you can make the argument that if you combine all 3 of those, you actually take it to training with a team, maybe you don't have those high intense days around it.
Exactly.
Would you guys like to see it?
Yeah, are we going to do the running test first?
Johnny?
Oh, yeah, we
What do
can
you
do
wanna do,
either
Johnny?
one.
Do you have
He's
class?
ready.
Okay. Which one do you want to do first?
Wait, we can start with the running.
Grade for the semester is basically performance.
Do you have a pen so I can write down?
Who's doing the running test?
Okay.
I'll take care of this. I should have a pen in my bag. I wonder if in the process, if maybe one of us could set up something for the AMI while.
Oh, yeah.
We'll project up on the screen when we're doing the AMI. I just wanted to get it off because there will be some private health information that'll pop up there.
Is there like any plans to like maybe implement a bunch of trainings with like youth coaches, like for like initiating this with younger athletes?
That's the grassroots effort that we're trying to get, because Luckily, we have the contacts with Dr. Andrews and Kevin Wilk for some of those higher level teams, colleges, and pros. But to be honest with you, our lower level club teams are really where we would like to do this testing. And in some of the schools, we've been able to get in to do mass testing. The roadblock we come into is them, have more of the funds to do it. So, some schools get grants. And so once they see the presentation, the athletic director's interested, they'll search for a grant. And once it's implemented in the school and they see it's easy, within the next 4 months, they see, the athletic directors talking to them. But that's the issue, not just with lower level schools, club level soccer is huge, travel basketball, all those type of organizations. It's just getting in, and everybody loves the testing, but then it comes to, that's where it sometimes, and you'll get some, like when we were doing the training for this last year at Birmingham, they had a national lacrosse tournament going on there. It's not cheap for them to travel to Birmingham, with all those kids.
And if you don't mind, can you write down your name, your height,
that's where we're looking at
your weight, and date of birth, so that way it's able to give you good results.
Yeah, that's just actually a club. Once it gets done, there's a hook to it.
Okay.
A lot of schools like it, they're trying to get from it for results.
Small, I guess, poor and improper.
Yeah.
I guess lifting techniques and training starting at like youth levels, or just even from like
you'll see the lateral shift on the squat. So they're having a 20-degree lateral shift on the squat.
Are you done there, right or left?
300 pounds on it. To do it. That's why a lot of.
Thank you, man.
I worked for a strength conditioning program for major universities. Nobody did back squats anymore. Everybody did front squats. Because when you do front squats, you have to have much better form to do it. They saw a lot of results. So, things like that, but just allows us to quantify that a little bit more for those things. Yeah, and you get the person that has a degenerative knee. Why is one knee worn out, the other one isn't? But maybe they've been loaded on that knee for years. And if we could catch that early, then, hypothetically, prevent a lot of injuries too. I try to do some of this testing with my seniors, not the jump part of it, but just the single leg squat and the double leg squat. You get a lot of good data. Just like the athlete, the ACL, the total knee, they all have fear of putting weight on that, right?
Yeah.
So the doctor goes, well, your bending's fine, your straightenings's fine, you know what I mean? You can do a straight leg raise. Okay, you're clear for discharge. They don't see them squat, they don't see them run, they don't ever look at them. It's up to us, in my profession, to tell them, okay, this patient's got good motion.
Right, with the sensors.
They're still walking abnormally, there's still movement still abnormal.
Where'd you want to go with this?
Yeah, we're over there.
So we got a ton of demos going on training with these Division I athletes that ACL repair had rehab at high level rehab programs. These weren't low level.
There's some private health information on there. It can't be seen right now, but it will be in a second.
So once it goes to the review stage,
it doesn't work.
Doesn't have their name or anything.
Yeah, I was never the same. Mine was back in the day before they even did the class.
Just go ahead and put the data in. Once you go under, it'll just be his name and information.
The irony is that it is stronger than the other leg based on my rehab, but it took a while.
Huh?
We were roommates in college, teammates.
Getting on what? Are we still on the live broadcast right now?
Yeah, there's not a lot of people watching, so you guys are cool. Yeah? How many followers are we up to right now?
Me and one other person.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. So if there's any embarrassing moments, we won't be on the evening news.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're missing out. See? That's the embarrassing one.
You said you work out of the gym?
No, I'm on the softball baseball facility called
Okay.
Sport Complex.
So you're doing high level training and performance training. Cool. Is that pretty competitive down here? Or?
Oh yeah, for the most part. I mean, we got small Henry County. There's 7 facilities, softball baseball facilities. But that's just only in one county, and then also obviously Metro Atlanta has a lot of different organizations and facilities.
Yeah.
We're like one of the oldest facilities on this island. It's a place called Home Plate.
Right.
Usually city, two old buildings. So everybody else kind of newer.
Yeah.
So you're
clinician
getting close to ready.
in our Hiram facility.
What's that?
So you're getting close.
Oh, yeah.
That's from a family of baseball.
Yeah, I was
His dad played.
So in the athletic setting, with
A lot of them come actually from Alabama.
basically we
Get
have
tested, trained on
one unit could probably be 4 athletes like that's provided them. Mass testing for athletes. A couple units. We'll bring a couple extra people to kind of do the setup, or people to do the testing.
I know some of the pictures that I've gotten in my area.
You can someone in the door for the
And
team.
some stuff that he's shown there. It's, you know, the biggest revelation I was telling you guys earlier is that, what's that?
The
The Wilburn?
Yeah.
Price of the
I
things
think
that produce the
Chin Brown. I think
is really that high. So it might take
Is it okay to sit down?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just setting up the sensors.
They want to get you up there, yeah. Yeah, so that's
So
kind of
this is
my
an
thing,
RFD,
coming out of that area.
and this is just communicating with the sensors right here.
Because they tell me it's like everyone, they're all trying to study.
Matt Olson, big league.
So you go to my court, they know stuff you don't.
So you're trying to get into some of those programs.
Yeah, it's good because you're wearing the tight pants, so it'll keep the sensors in there. So yeah, you won't need this.
You know, you don't test that other contralateral hip.
0%
That's the throwing hip, that's what you're
We
playing on.
also have
He said
some
that that's where you're
like
going to change all your
surgical
mechanics.
tape.
Sure enough,
Oh
I
yeah,
did
yeah, well, this is perfect. Because you know, if he's running, some people sweat a lot.
Good stuff.
The tape on here can let go, so we wrap them up with this. So it's good.
I think he should do the AMI.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Should be okay.
So basically, we use these for the athletic movement index. This helps with the placement on the lumbar spine. So basically, it's based on height. So we have somebody less than 5'3", 5'3" to 5'9", right there, 5'9" to 6'1", 6'1" to 6'5", and then for our larger individuals, 6'5" to 6'9", right there. So basically what we do is we find the PSIS on the individual, we mark them, we draw a straight line across, and then we center the that on the bottom there. We go stick this over it and stick it on there as well. Then this we use on the tibia, so he'll actually set him up on this now, but basically what you do is you put it on the distal aspect of the medial malleolus and take it up the medial part of the tibia. You mark it based on his height with the template there, and then you just draw a line straight across the tibia there, and then you center this with the line going right across there.
And we usually use ACE wrap or some sort of
Each one of them is one.
Each one.
tubing.
So I can mark you properly.
Electrodes on, they sweat, running with the test.
I was saying we have surgical tape.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, we brought some some ace wrapping.
Can I
in,
get
and
the
it should
two
be sufficient, but just with the
pads?
spring sometimes.
No.
On the back, it's never a problem. It's always on the shins for whatever reason. So. Right now, should be already sort of prepared.
So funny.
So you briefly mentioned in the presentation, we can do the treadmill test, which is nice because you can videotape it. We can also do an off-site run. So what they would do is take the monitor.
So we're looking for his
with
tibia
them,
right here.
just like you would with your
Put that on the
iPod or
side.
something. Go out and do a field run, come back, put it back in the system, and you can offload the data from the run. So we can do an off-site run. So we actually did that with Johnny and ran a 5K, local 5K. We pulled him up and did the data off him. So it was interesting because he did experience some knee problems midway through the race. So able to kind of look at the data and see, you can see drastically unloading on that leg and stuff.
And kind of like the heart sensors that are
Then
out
when
there,
you
like
put these up,
patients where they're having
stores the
some sort of symptoms, they can press it and then
Yeah, if you can
they get
put
the readings. This
together,
actually has an event
so
button
make
on
sure
it too.
these are put
So if
together.
Johnny had, if he wanted to, he could have pressed event while he was doing that long run.
Together. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I think he was just happy to finish the race. When he goes into the woods where we were having it at,
Yeah, so
he
you
was
feel
third going into the woods. But by the 10th person, I was getting a little worried, and then when I saw the
This is
lady
just
in
in
the
case
jogging
you
store
sweat.
come out of the door, I was like, something might
It's
be
not
wrong.
gonna fall off, 'cause that's
And
happened.
He just had to stop and walk.
And it's not
before
good.
it,
So we've learned, yeah, you need to put this on there. But like with Dr. Pilgrim, she has the type hands that'll keep the sensor and prevent it from falling off.
Don only goes to yoga on Monday, Wednesday.
Skip Mondays.
So this is your left leg.
Oh, actually.
Clips it.
No, it's
Yeah.
probably come like, which one tell you leg on, left or right?
Yeah, doesn't do you any good if it's on the wrong one. Okay.
Which is the system cost?
That's a
Have you
good
done
question.
exercise?
I know we got a
You walked
pretty big
around
discount
today?
rate.
Yeah,
for
man,
buying
I'm
bulk.
part guy here.
So I don't know the
Okay,
true
how long
answer to
ago?
that.
Company's out of Australia.
Yeah.
Well, I've been there from 11 to
US
12,
did
15.
it.
11
They
to
did
12.
come out.
Okay,
and,
so you're fine.
Did the training all
Yeah,
the
so
way.
basically what you're gonna do is.
She's like,
Yeah. So there's 3 stages. So you're gonna do a jog, which is just like the everyday jog, which is 60% of
You
your
know,
max.
concern was,
Then
well,
you're
we
gonna do a run,
we
which is
start
gonna be
getting
80% of
people
your
in,
max.
doctors start seeing the
And then you're gonna do
technology.
100%,
and
which
then
is
we
your
start
sprint. So like if you're running to the finish line, come in first place. So, all out. And each one's gonna be a minute.
Are you going to use the incline too?
No, it doesn't.
Then how are we going to run at 100%? Because it's, when it goes up to like 15, it's not fast enough. The treadmill.
How fast will it go?
It's what? 10 miles per hour?
12. No, it's
12.
12. Well, it should hit 12. Yeah.
So,
Does he
You
really run that fast?
know we can find out right now, right?
I don't think you run that fast, do you?
I don't think Don does.
don't like Tyreek Hill from G's?
Yeah, I mean.
Let me know when we get to your warm-up speed.
Yeah, you're not gonna go that fast. Yeah, you're not gonna go that fast. Anyway, it's just for a minute.
It's not like a car. Like,
Yeah. Each one's a minute, so he's gonna be doing a jog. That's 60%, 1 minute. Then he's gonna run. That's 80%, and then a fast sprint, as fast as you possibly can. But don't try to be Superman either. Yeah, what I would do is I would just start like just walk for like 1 minute. Yeah, just a little warm up.
22 seconds. Good.
I think you got 22 seconds, that.
Probably 29. I'm not ready.
Yeah, before you start,
Might be John's.
can I take your left leg and pound really hard? No, I need to reverse it. And then do the other one. Yeah, so, see, I already have a problem. Somehow it flipped it, so that was your left leg. So if you can come back here. And this is important, because that way you don't have any mistakes.
You always want to test to make sure.
Always test it, because you'd hate to have an athlete go through all this. No, just your left side. So I don't know how that happened, but it got flipped.
Went down.
So I'm going to put these back together.
Imagine doing
You can probably just pop the sensors off.
Well, because of the way it is, you have to, yeah. Push it down here.
This should be right, because
Yeah, well, exactly. That's why.
Hold on, that look wrong, don't it? And
Oh yeah. See, they're supposed to. Yeah, they're both facing the right way.
Is it that way?
That's weird, but the way it is,
Are you sure?
you can't clip it. See, if you look at it, it's going down. It's supposed to go up. They're both supposed to go up. And I put it on there right, so that's weird.
That's correct.
So now we're just doing this on a couple of people. Imagine Trent's done it on hundreds of athletes on a Saturday. And they all just line up.
Down 3
So you have
points.
3 or 4 machines going and just cycling in over
doesn't make
an
sense 'cause
8-hour
they're
day.
alright.
So it can get,
Yeah.
you gotta have your system in place for doing it.
Yeah, I was like,
He's already
it's
told us
on
if
right.
you
They're
do
both
something
facing
like that,
straight, and they're both
please
facing
let
up to
him
the
know.
left.
He will come
I mean, that's
help us
the way I always do it.
implement
I don't know why when
hundreds of
tapped
athletes.
it went down. The curve is supposed to
You
go
have to have
up.
a good system.
You know why? Or maybe it's fine. It's just the way I recorded it.
Yeah, you should be good.
Okay.
Yeah, they're both facing inward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Maybe you just have a very strong stomp.
Yes, the people that were here.
Just do like a 1 minute warm up. Look at this too. Last time he exercised was like noon. Last time he exercised was like noon, 2 hours ago. So just do like a 1 minute warm up.
60% to 80%.
Yeah, no, it seems fine. It's just weird though, because I always have people stomp.
Well, yeah, you can't develop. What do you think? 60%? Get that straight. Usually a steady jog. 60%. And all right, let's get you to a faster, more like a run, and then go to a good sprint. What you'll find is the faster the speed they go at, they typically.
They'll give you directions here when he's
less
ready.
contact time.
Yeah, so.
Whereas the slower speed, you actually see a bigger difference.
So, well, what I always do is, I just ask him to jog. He's going to jog for 1 minute, and then after that, kind of just slow down, wait like maybe 30 seconds, and then you're going to do the sprint. I mean, you're going to do the run, so that's going to be it's 80% of your max. Wait a minute, and then you're going to do your sprint when you run as fast as you possibly can without passing out. All right.
So for what they're going to do, they're going to do a jog, they're going to do a run, and then a sprint. So it's going to be about 60%, then about 80% of what he feels like his max is, and then a dead 100% sprint to collect the data.
All right. You feel ready to do your jog?
Yeah.
All right. So put in your jog. So yeah, as you can see his gait. Yeah, See that left leg? It's going in a little bit.
Along with him and Dennis, we can go back and look at the video thing to see what's happening. And he's running, so you would assume maybe, okay, maybe there's a problem with his knee, but it could be his hip. That's the weak spots.
All right, you ready to run?
Yeah.
All right, 80%. So increase your speed to 80% of what you would do if you were running.
Good job, keep it up. Good job.
You got it, man.
Doing good.
You got 20 seconds left. Eight seconds left. And when you're ready, do that sprint.
All right, let's go. Let's go, let's go.
Got it.
Come on, push it.
There you go.
Let's go.
Keep it up, keep it up.
Push it, push it.
Keep it up.
50 seconds left.
Keep it up.
Come on, let's go. Push it.
40 seconds left.
Push, push.
Keep going.
Let's go.
Keep it up, keep it up. Good job. Keep it up.
Good forward.
30 seconds left.
Push
it, pump, pump.
Almost there, almost there.
20 seconds left.
You got it, let's go.
10 seconds left.
Push, push. Push through.
5 seconds. And you can slow down. Good job.
Yeah.
Good job.
Good job, good job, good job.
Yeah, keep on walking now. Keep on walking. Well, you should. You know, you don't want to just boom.
Any day.
You know, just slowly walk for like a minute. But yeah, you're done. Gotta slow down that heart rate.
Again, when they do the side planks, usually you have something softer than to put on the elbow. Maybe a mat, yeah. Bring a mat in.
All right. You want to look at that?
Sure. I can disconnect there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Good job, man.
Oh, yeah.
Most baseball players don't have to run that long, huh? Not really. A lot of home runs.
Okay.
So,
All right.
Date of birth on dominant side.
So here are the results, just like that. So if you look here, let's see.
Okay.
At heel strike, he was coming down on that left side a little bit harder than that right side, but he was actually, for ground reaction forces, he was pretty much dead even there, which is quite impressive. He tended to have a little bit more stance time on the right, but pretty minimal there as well. He was at about 148 steps per minute, and that was all during the jog there. You can see as we go to the run, so this was about 80% of his self-perceived max there. He started hitting that right side a little bit harder, and you could actually hear that on the treadmill. I don't know if any of you guys noticed that, but when he was on that right side, he was hitting harder, and you can see the difference there, almost 200 newtons there. He was hitting at heel strike at about the same there still at the run at 6 grams. Contacts time still a little bit bigger there on the right, but not too significant there. And then he was at about 154 steps per minute for cadence there on the run. So then here on the sprint, he was ground reaction forces still greater on that right side. Not quite actually as significant during the sprint than the run, which is surprising. But he started hitting a little harder on that left heel as well. So this is just some of the data that you can get. A lot of times if you have somebody who maybe tore their left ACL or something like that, you can start seeing they're consistently hitting that right side harder. And consistently spending more time on that right side. So it gives you a pretty good data when you're looking at that.
Which side did you have your ACL injury?
Never had one.
Oh, I'm sorry, it was somebody else. Any prior injuries?
All right. You can put your
It's
legs
nice to see
together.
the video on you because you'll
Just
see
wanna
your
make sure
right
they're
hip
perfectly aligned.
tends to stay lower. We call it kind of a glute medius lurch or a Trendelenburg in PT circles. So it could indicate there's more weakness on that right hip, which obviously you're going to be forcing down more to push, a lot more effort on that side. So I'd be interested, as a follow-up to kind of look at that strength on that side. Because, I was talking to some of the guys and showed them that it was definitely a significant asymmetry when you were jogging and sprinting. And actually, will sometimes get better the faster you go because you're spending less time in contact with the treadmill.
So it's great data. Personally, I use the athletic movement index, which we're about to do. I use that a lot more. I feel like clinically speaking and in my rehabilitations, it's very valuable information for me to have. So I tend to go a little bit more heavy on the AMI, but definitely good data on both of them.
Yeah, so
we're gonna. He actually is working on setting her up.
Make a line through it.
Disconnect
and then
here.
the sensor is going to go right through it. So, put your hands, your thumbs, like you naturally wear on your hip, so they're right there. So if you could pull in your pants.
So
just
one
right to that
application
point.
that we kind of
So
pitched for
slide
the
on your
running
pants
test
right to that
was
point.
a local running store was
Your pants.
your
If
runners
you
are
can
very
pull it down
specific
just a
in
little
what
bit
shoe wear
right
they
there.
wear and
So, yeah,
feel like they're
perfect.
performing. So the rationale was,
Okay.
hey, get a couple pairs of shoes you're interested in, come do the testing, see which one you might perform better in. We can kind of quantify that for them so they could look at it. So, I've had a few people bring in their own shoes just to kind of get a feel for that. So that's, it's one thing that we're looking to use the software for in the community, not just with schools and athletes. So Atlanta's a big running community, running clubs. So, we also have a video running test that some of our therapists do. So this is another tool that we can use with them if we start to see them on a 2D recording if there's something going on. And so we leave a lot of the technique things to the running coaches. I am not a runner. I've had therapists that are avid runners, and listening to them talk to runners and splits and stuff, it's all Greek to me, but so there is a lot of technique behind it. So we don't tend to teach the technique. We just kind of show them what the data shows and let the running coaches and let those type of professionals work on that. So, there has to be a disconnect between your training side and your coaching side. So, coaches always feel like they're the ones that are going to improve performance, and on the training side, we always feel like we're the ones that can help perform performance. And I really think in reality, it's a little bit of both. They can help each other. So luckily coaches are getting more involved in this and see the benefit of it. Ask the Houston Texans, who just lost their starting quarterback, how big losing an ACL non-contact in practice.
Some of that damage might be any game.
Well, sure. But there's been enough high-profile stars out there that tell me that doesn't change the course of your season when you lose somebody like that. And we'd love to get our hands on these folks.
But nothing in the past, just the current left tipping. Okay. Any concussions?
And RG3 is another one.
How often do you run?
Right. It would have been great to test and identify that and work on that stuff. So.
3 months ago.
3 months ago. Okay.
I was
So.
6 months. So.
Okay.
Okay. So for the side plank, we just need some like a little cushion. Yeah.
It's kind of hard.
That's what I mean.
Okay.
Side
Like a
plank.
labor
Okay, cool.
That's their diagnosis, but
Well,
if I know,
Probably here.
it's hard to do both of
I
them.
want to give it some time.
Okay.
Sometimes we find it.
So she's testing here.
You think this is okay?
Good luck.
No. So yeah, more room. Does this? Can we slide
Yeah.
this
Yeah, we can.
forward?
Can you help me?
Sure. One second.
Big guy.
Too late now.
Tomorrow, it's easier if you lift it from the
Get those sensors off yet? Do we count or just rip it off? Not even. You want the count? 1, 2, 3.
So for any of you that want to see us actually, the data going on, so just seeing a report, you guys can gather around here,
1, 2, 3.
Just remember, 60 seconds is a long time. I just remember when I did it.
I'm going to plug it in for a second.
Do that side plank.
Is that charged?
Yeah.
It's charged.
Well, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. Very few people didn't make it. Very few people can do it. I mean, did do it, but it's not easy. For side plank? Yeah, we'll
Is it just one neck?
it's just single side plank. All it's gonna be. Your legs are together, but we have to give you the right technique.
Okay, great.
You can't break your technique. Most people do it. It's just a struggle. So the first part of the test, you'll be doing planks, front, side, and also squat test. The sensors will be on her back so that we can collect the data. And then once we get done with those tests, we will put them on her shins, on her tibias to do her single leg testing. And so the data will be recording on there. We also videotape the participants so we can go back and see what's going on during that. So it's very good when you're looking at movement to understand, and we have the ability to edit it a little bit because sometimes maybe they just don't understand what we're saying at first. So we can go back and retest.
Can I use the match for the...
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's just going through the setup process, but this stuff we already done, so you're good. It's just linking with the sensors.
I was telling some of them earlier, we do these testings on the weekends with whole programs, so you could have up to 200 athletes doing it on the weekend, so several computers going, so you have to get a really good system going and be very organized when you're doing this testing to get the data.
Yeah, if you can just stand like you naturally would, calibrating.
She doesn't have the sensors on yet.
Oh, yeah. Well, that might help. So you lift up. Good. So make sure you have you on the screen. So you'll be doing a plank. You're gonna hold it for 60 seconds. And feet together.
So lift your butt up there. There you go. Lift your butt up more.
So we'll cue you in the proper position.
Yeah, so we'll get you in position.
Just hold it like that for 60 seconds.
So, yep.
This is like yoga, right?
Should be easy for you.
Well.
So what we'll go ahead and have you do is go ahead and get in position. We'll make sure it's the right position. We'll tell you to remember that position.
And then you can
you'll go down, and then when you're ready, you'll go back up, and he'll start the test. Yep. So let's bring your feet together there. Other than that, it looks pretty good. So remember that position. You can go ahead and go down.
All right.
59 more seconds.
Yeah.
You let me know when you're ready. When you're ready, come up to that natural position. All right. And
Feet together.
Good?
Yep, start.
Starting now.
So for the newcomers in the room, basically what we're looking at with her, we're using these dorsal V sensors. Basically these sensors, what they do is they can detect rotation, they can detect flexion, extension. They can also look at speed at which movement's occurring. And you guys kind of saw the end of the running
30
test.
30 seconds
there.
left.
What we're doing now is we're going to take her through a test that we call the Athletic Movement Index, which is basically a series of tests that biomechanics literature has given us some data on that shows that somebody might be at increased risk for injury if they fall outside the norms.
10 seconds left.
So we'll, after we run the test on her, we'll throw up her
5
results on the
seconds
screen
left.
and kind of talk about the details a little bit as well.
And relax.
Good.
Good job. Not so bad, huh?
I was like,
all right, so
I hope they don't see it.
So stand on up here because we're going to fatigue you, so we're going to move pretty quick. So what I want you to do here, you'll stand equally on both sides. He's going to tell you when to squat. You're going to do 20 squats. He'll say squat, you'll be here, you'll squat down and back up. Yeah, so each time they'll wait till he cues you to squat.
Yeah, you're going to want to stand right about here.
A little further.
Right up there.
So feet about shoulder width apart.
Hands out.
Okay. Ready?
Yep.
All right. And squat. Good. 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 9 more left. And squat. Good. And squat. Good. And squat. Good. And squat. Good. And squat. 4 more. Good. And squat. Good. And squat. Good. And squat. Good. And squat. Perfect. All right, you finished that.
Johnny, is it right side?
All right, so we're doing a right side planks.
Okay, so right side planks off the elbow, feet together. Make sure to keep the lateral part of your right leg off the ground as well. We'll help make sure you're in good position, then we'll tell you to remember it, go down, and then we'll have you get back up in the position.
Not my forte, guys. FYI.
So we'll turn it the other way so you can see her face.
This is gonna be. So both feet stuck together.
Both feet stuck together.
Okay.
Did you see that look I got after I said that?
Put your hand on your hip.
Hand on your hip. Go ahead and get in position.
Yeah.
Go ahead and get in position, and I'll make sure that it's good. Let's bring your hip forward a little bit, and then down a little bit. Okay. And go ahead and remember that position.
I would also suggest bringing your elbow in a little bit more to give you some more support underneath. There you go. Because when it's out like that,
Better be cheering, guys, I'm telling you, because I'm already suffering and I'm on the floor.
She can do it, you guys can do it.
Cheering helps, guys. Cheering helps.
You ready? Whenever you're ready, get in that natural position. And starting now.
Head straight, please.
And my entire body shaking.
50 seconds left.
The struggle is good.
Good job.
40
Be the
seconds
standard
left.
bearer. Keep it up, keep it up.
Halfway there, 30 seconds left.
You're locked in now. Stay locked in. Good job.
20 seconds left.
You got this.
Oh, you're already past it. You're good.
10 seconds left.
It's just weakness leaving the body. Hold it.
5 seconds left.
Good. You got it. You got it.
Hold it up. Don't think about it.
And relax.
Now. Good job.
No, the other side.
All right. Go ahead and come on over here.
Yeah, this side's easy. You already know you can do it.
No, this side is bad. That's where I'm going to stop.
So if this is increasing pain at all, we'll stop it and we'll skip it.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
No pain, no gain.
Oh, you're next.
All right, I got
All right, so go ahead and get in position there. Hand on the hip there.
Hand on the hip.
Hand up on the hip. There you go. Okay, remember that position.
All right, when you feel comfortable, you can start. Starting now.
Good job.
You got it.
That looks easy.
50 seconds left.
You got it. You got it. Lock yourself in.
See how long some of you guys last.
Maintain position.
If she beats you, then you don't pass the class.
40 seconds left.
Good job, good job.
Good job.
Way to hold it.
30 seconds left.
Halfway there, you're already halfway home. You got it in the bag.
20 seconds left.
Good job, good job. Keep holding.
Almost there. Almost there.
10 seconds left.
Come on, you got it. Worst is over.
5 seconds left.
All right.
Good job.
And relax.
Now.
Good job.
Good job.
So now we'll switch.
Could have done 2 minutes.
Stay there for me.
Here comes the real fun.
Yeah.
What's that?
The real fun comes next.
Which one is that?
Single leg.
The jumping stuff.
All right, if you could turn around for me. That's good, holding on there nicely. There you go. Oh, I just put it on the wrong side though. Not if I do that. All right, so we're going to do the next series of tests on the right leg first. Before we start, if you could just stomp your right leg.
Yeah, hang on 1 second. Okay, so stomp your left leg. Perfect. And now stomp your other one.
That was his right leg.
Yeah, they both worked. And then do the other leg. Perfect. Okay. But we're going to have to go back.
Okay, so come on back here. So the next thing we're going to have you do is stand on your right leg, keep your left leg behind you, chest up. Same thing, he's going to tell you when to squat. You're going to squat down and up. So try to maintain control, don't put your foot down at all. Try to keep your pelvis nice and controlled. And it'll be 10 times, but just wait each time for him to tell you to squat.
And how my boss can go in the way?
So I would say kind of keep it up.
Yeah, whole time keeping that leg up.
Try.
All right, whenever you feel comfortable standing one leg, you can stand on that one leg. Okay.
And left leg out
Squat.
behind you.
Squat. Come down, squat. Good. Squat. Good. Squat. Good. Squat.
And those guys are rubbing their hands. They're like, yeah.
Squat.
PT.
Good.
Get you an appointment.
I know.
Squat.
No, I've just been delaying it, you know.
You can squat. Perfect. Good. Squat. Good. Squat. Squat. And squat. Okay, now. No. Okay, now it's the single leg hops on the right leg.
So now it's going to be the same thing. So he'll tell you when to hop, and all you want to do is stand on that right leg, go down, hop up, a good, really good effort, land it, kind of stick the landing there, keep the leg up the whole time.
Watch the ceiling.
Yeah, sorry. I'm not LeBron, so.
Yeah, so just like practice one of them, see if you got it.
I got it.
Okay. Okay.
It's not gonna go all right.
Hop. Hop.
My name is Lindsay Vaughn.
Hop, hop, hop.
Go ahead and hop. Hop.
Do you want me to keep going?
Yep, go ahead and stand up. Hold
Hang
on.
on.
So
Hop.
he'll tell you each
Yeah.
time.
Oh.
So
Just like the squat.
Yeah, but keep that leg up. Hop. 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 Good, hop.
I'm feeling my glutes.
Good job.
Hop.
It's going everywhere.
Hop.
It's not even fun. How many more?
And one last one, hop.
Okay.
Done with that side, okay. Now here comes the fun.
John, you might want to angle it this way a little bit since we'll have her.
Oh yeah,
hopping
because
out.
she needs room for this.
Yeah. So this one, what you're going to do is you're going to stand on your right leg, and he's going to tell you to hop forward. So you're going to give a good hop forward. Again, stick the landing. Then he'll tell you to hop backwards. You'll hop backwards, stick the landing. Then he's going to tell you to hop out. So you'll jump out laterally, stick the landing, and then back. And you're going to do that that whole series twice.
Go on his command.
On the same leg.
Same leg, yeah. We want to fatigue you.
You guys.
So yeah, when I say hop out, I'll take my finger, and that means go that way. Just don't hit anybody. She gonna have enough room?
Oh, she's going to go out.
Yeah, I'm going to reach both
Okay.
ends.
She's going to go right.
Never know.
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be like...
Okay. And hop forward.
Good job.
Good. Hop back.
I don't even know what I'm doing.
Good. Hop out.
This way,
Well,
towards
hold on,
us.
to the right.
Yeah.
Hop towards us. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, you got it. And hop back in. Good. Now you're gonna hop back towards me. Okay. Now hop back. Good. And hop back out. And hop back in. Good.
Yeah.
Ankle lunges.
Last one on the right leg. So what you're going to do, you're going to take a knee on the left side here. You want your ankle and knee kind of in that 90-90 position. And once we have that, he's going to tell you to lunge forward. And what you want to do is you want to lunge forward as far as you can while you keep your heel on the ground like that. And you're going to hold that for 10 seconds. And we're going to do that 3 times.
So yeah,
I'm on the same leg, right?
Yes.
That same.
yeah, the right side.
All right.
Yeah, and after you do the first one, I'll say go back to that 90.
So you may want to bring your left knee forward just a touch.
Yeah.
There you go, and bring that right knee forward just a touch too.
Lean forward.
Or bring your left foot underneath you a little bit more. There you go.
Yeah.
That looks good.
There you go. Just hold that.
All right, and lean forward.
Lunge.
Lunge
Good.
forward.
Keep the heel down.
Hold it. Heel down.
But don't
Good.
have your hands on your legs.
Hold it, hold it.
Okay, and come back to 90.
So for the next one, let's do hands down by your side there.
Yeah. And lean forward. Good. Right. And good. Come back to 90. And lean forward. Perfect. Now you're doing the other side.
I'm doing it like.
So now we're going to do single leg squats on the left. We're going to do the same series all over again. So remember, he'll tell you when to squat, keep the right leg out behind you, and arms out in front.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready, stand on that leg. And squat. Good. Squat. Good. Squat. Good. Squat. Good. Squat. Good. Squat. 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 And squat. Last one. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Hops. So when you were hopping, you'd be doing the hops. You ready? And hop.
Is it a full squat or?
Just hops.
Okay.
Yeah. Jump. That's what I'm going to say. Jump. Jump. Good. Jump. Jump. Good. Jump. Good. Jump. Jump. Good. Jump. And jump. Last one here. And good.
There you go.
All right, so these are the plans. Dr. P would have loved to see this.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're going to do the hop forward, hop back, hop out, hop in. So you probably want to start a little bit further over here just so you have room to hop out there.
All right. Whenever you're ready to get in that leg, we'll start. Okay, hop forward. Good. Hop backwards. Good. Hop out.
Left.
Yeah, hop out.
Good job. Good job.
And hop back in. Good. Stay in that leg. And hop towards me. Good. Hop back. Hop out. And hop back in. And good. Okay. Next is the lunge.
All right. So take a knee on the right leg, facing that way.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so every time her pelvis,
so
yeah.
your left foot, yeah, just off the side.
And the
There you go.
balance is when they touch the ground if they can't maintain that position.
Position looks good. So when he tells you, that's when you'll lunge forward. And again, just keep your heels on the ground.
All right, and
3 times, 10
lunge.
seconds.
Lean forward. Good. All right, come back to 90. Good. Lean forward. And come back to 90. Lean forward. And you are done.
Good job.
Good job.
All right, tell me how dysfunctional I am now.
Yeah, you ready? You poked out.
You want to get all that stuff off
Yeah.
too.
Then I can come and try to change the way my clothes are.
Great job.
Thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
Let's see how that goes.
It's not easy. Yeah, so we went to Birmingham at St. Andrew's Clinic. He had to do all this.
Every time.
I did everything except for the last lunge, and then they upgraded software in the middle of nowhere. We went to lunch, and I come back and I do it twice. So imagine, yeah, this fatigues you. So you might be a little sore afterwards. Yeah, you did great though. Yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna take those off of you, the stickers.
Forgot about them, Mom. So easy.
Yeah, and when they stuck well on you. Good. Fun?
Yeah. I don't know what the results
All right, and then we'll get the ones back there.
I see a lot of orange. Overall score
So
is
far,
not
that's
in the
actually
green.
All right.
that's actually pretty good.
Good.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
All right. So this is kind of what we see when we generate the report. The first thing that pops up here. I actually, when I'm working with a patient of mine, I don't tend to focus on this a whole lot. I tend to go more to the data that it gives us and talk about the details here. But I will say, this is actually one of the better scores I've seen, which is really good. And that could be because I'm rehabbing people and stuff like that as well. So
you're saying I don't need your services?
Well, we'll see here.
We'll see.
So you did very well with the planks. So although you were fatigued and although you were shaky, you did not have a lot of flexion and extension or rotation occurring at the spine. A lot of times when people are holding planks longer than probably they should, they'll bring their butt up or they'll start sagging down. So you get a lot of that, as well as you'll get a little rotation onto putting a little more pressure on one foot, rotating the hip out, and you really had very minimal deviation. The most was on your right side planks. With 6 degrees was your max deviation in flexion extension, and then 7 in rotation. But that's a very good score. So on your squats here, you did a great job at not flexing your spine too much. So you actually had very good form there as well, and you had a very minimal lateral shift. So you shifted about 7 degrees to your right there. And you can look here and kind of see there was a couple outliers where you kind of overcorrected and came to your left, but pretty consistently you shifted to your right. So if you're at the gym, typically what I would say, is just focus on, a small shift to the right. That's very minor, almost not even worth mentioning, really. So this is where it gets a little more fun. So single leg squat. So if you look here, again, the biomechanics literature would tell us that if you have a greater magnitude of 10 degrees from that varus to valgus, you're going to be at an increased risk. So on that left side, you had about a 13-degree motion there, and then 15 degrees there. You had although you had less magnitude there, you had greater speed there. So you went in about 26 degrees per second. So the biomechanics literature would tell us that greater than 20 degrees per second, you'd be at an increased risk. That's actually pretty darn close though. I'll have patients who will get 60, 70, 80 here. So, with this, even just probably some verbal cueing and really focusing on that, you might be able to improve upon that. And then 22 degrees per second, same, pretty darn close there. But as far as the scoring, that magnitude is going to be where you lost most of your scoring. Your tibial inclination was pretty good there as well.
For pelvic control.
Yeah, so he docked you for that? Yes, he did. So yeah, so that's when you're doing this number.
Yeah, that's when your hips are hurting, right?
Yeah.
So that it shows you got good symmetry. You're just off on, pretty off on both. It's not that one's better than the
So I
other.
got to work them together, and then it's
Sure.
it's functional together.
Sure.
That it makes sense, with that movement and that, loss of pelvic control. you know, relatively speaking, you're adducting the hip and you're going to internally rotate it, that you could potentially injure a labrum or something like that as well in the process. Again, we hope to kind of gather more data on that in the future with sensors on the lower back as we're testing those as well. Single leg hop, again, the total frontal plane motion, we still want less than 10. That doesn't change no matter what test we do. And we want the degrees per second to be less than 100. So on that left side, you were going in at 60 degrees per second, right side 113. Which side is the side that bothers you more?
The left.
The left. So that might be actual force production that you weren't producing as much because it was sore. But again, you lost points here with the greater than 10 degrees, and also on that right side, you were landing a little stiffer. It would appear that your tibial inclination wasn't as great. So on the single leg hop plant, you can see, so this speed we want less than 135 degrees per second, so you can see where she was on each. Total frontal motion, you can see that kind of steadily increasing as we go through difficulty. You're at 22 on the right there, and 20 on the left. Yeah, 20 on the left there. You had a little bit more motion on your right when you were going into the lunge than you did on your left. You know, tight gastroc heel cord, things like that can affect the mechanics and also put you at risk as well. So, so that's where you got docked on some points there. So let's see. So for patients of mine here, you know, one thing that I would want to work on with you is the pelvic stability for sure. There was a lot of the wobbling around. You didn't lose your balance very often, but you really, you know, a lot of wobbling around in there. So working on the core stability as well as that proprioception during some of those functional tasks that we were doing there is definitely something that I would want to focus on there. Maybe some dynamic stretching of the heel cord. You know, I would like to see a little bit more there. You know, and this is one that I think could, you know, we could have some improvement on and reduce your risk there. Some we didn't on the single leg hop plant. We didn't really talk about the 28 and 29 degrees there. That we really want above 33. And then glute med strengthening in the fatigue state would be good to help reduce that speed and magnitude there. So, yeah, you might be sore for a couple days. Yeah. Would you add anything else to that?
No, I just, again, it shows the single leg stance activities are where you struggle, and that's where everybody would struggle. So on some of them, you're weaker on one side more than the other, but you're probably equally weak on both sides. And so a lot of what we'll see is people do well with the squat test, even the bilateral plank test, but anything unilateral is where they're having more problems. And unfortunately, that's where most injuries occur, even on when you're doing activities. And that's why we do the plank test, because any kind of rotation or change in your center of gravity can affect you. And for us, for injury prevention, that's huge. Most people don't get hurt standing like this. They're usually bent over or they're twisted. Same thing with that. We're able to look at not only those scores, but go back in the video and see where there might be some issues. I didn't have a good view of watching you because I was I'd like to have been, I wanted them to see the screen because I did want to kind of see how your movement was, because that's a lot of what we do in our field is we do a lot of movement analysis, how they move and stuff. So again, a doctor would look at her and just see her squat and say, oh, you're fine. You know, you do a squat fine, but they don't look at the single leg type activities that we do. And that's not just our athletes, but our everyday people. That's where they struggle. That's where they have more issues at. And, you know, we want to see that not only on single leg, but multiple exercises. As you can see, that's what really ramped it up, and all three of us have done this test. It is no fun. They did it on the New York Giants earlier this year, and those guys came out complaining of how tough the test was, and those guys are professional athletes. Interesting enough, we had a guy in our class in Birmingham that actually scored better than most of those guys did for the Giants. And he's just an average guy. You know, he works out, but he was no pro athlete. So again, why are some of these athletes having so many injuries, and they should be at a higher level than us? And it's non-contact. You know, it's very revealing. You know, what are we doing to train our folks? So this gives you more objective data than some of the other tests out there, and we're still trying to figure out how to best use it with our populations, but certainly in an athletic population and what you guys are going to school for, it's very revealing. So I was talking to one of you guys about squatting. You know, that 20-degree lateral shift, that's one thing when you're just doing a regular squat. Imagine having 300 pounds on your back and doing a squat with that lateral shift, what compression you're putting on the spine. So, and you might not feel it now, but 20 years from now, you'll feel it. I mean, you know, one of my older patients gave me the best line. He said, you know, if I knew I was going to live this long, I would have took better care of my body. So, you know, right now, the things that you're going through with your clients or whoever you're working with, what they're going to do now is going to affect them in 30, 40, 50 years. So you've only got one body, so take care of it. So.
It's hard to imagine with this physique, but I really struggled pretty hard on my planks, and left planks particularly. And for somebody like myself, you know, it's like typically when we're dosing exercise, you know, and let's say we're doing core work with somebody, you know, if you don't have data like this, you might say, okay, do 3 times for a minute, you know, regular plank, 3 times per minute, right plank, 3 times per minute, left plank. But somebody like myself, when I look at my data, I say, well, maybe I need to focus on that left side a little bit more and figure out different ways so I can strengthen the left side of my core a little bit more than the right side of my core. And it just gives you some great data to be able to make decisions like that as well.
And we were talking about that 10-degree change in the plank. I think that's a little bit generous because, you know, I want to see that probably get closer to 5 degrees. I think they just really were just sticking it on the wall and see what they see out of it, because I think a lot of people do better on the plank than they probably should. But single leg, I think, is right on, because we tested and then trained and tested again, and they substantially improve. And it's just cueing. Keep your knee out a little bit, you know, train in that position. So, you had a question?
Yes. The test you guys selected, what's the advantage of those? Why didn't you include like the pre-hop test they use in a lot of the return to play criteria, or like 4-corner single leg hop? Or have you guys, is that something you're going to add in, or?
So basically, most of it was done, I think, off the Hewitt literature that was in there. You know, so that was the single leg hop, single leg squat. He might have actually had you drop off a box, if I remember correctly. Do you know the answer to that? Are you familiar with that literature?
No, I was just curious from my own experience.
Yeah. What the 4-corner?
Single leg. Yeah, I mean, essentially a T. You're just going between them to count number of contacts in a minute, and if you touch the tape, then you lose points too. That was done at the Daniel Cooper's clinic in Dallas.
Yeah. Does it do diagonals in that?
They did have a diagonal exercise in there. It was like an hour process.
Okay. But
they had separate ones. You do like a 3-hop single leg.
Yeah.
They had some diagonals going forward and back, and then.
So I know the reason that we don't want diagonals in this test is because that athletes tend to get so fatigued when you work in that diagonal, especially if you're, you know, doing a single leg hop on the right side and you're hopping back and hopping that, you know, you could really stress that ACL, and you know, we don't want to put somebody at risk. So we kind of gathered what we could from that literature and applied it to creating that test, but wanted to avoid, you know, really putting somebody at a high risk.
Yeah, and just like you had said in the program, we want to keep it standardized. We want to keep it simple. When you're doing hundreds of athletes over a weekend, you want to be able to get through it quickly and reproduce it so that, you know, the intra reliability between us, needs to be consistent. So you don't have to worry about, well, he's got to do the test next time because he did it the first time. It should be pretty reproducible. I know Johnny and I work in the same location, so whether he's doing it or I'm doing the next test, it's a bigger difference. In PT, when we do range of motion measurements and strength measurements, we like to have the same clinician doing it because we do have different subjective ways of how we measure. Whereas this test, we try to take that out of it. So we try to do the KISS method, keep it simple. Yeah. And that's what we're trying to do with it. So we're not trying to make it complicated for folks. Well, yeah, so there's a lot of, and in fact, I think you had a luncheon with the doctor, wanted to sort of talk about that's why we're trying to stay away from box jumps and higher level stuff. We want to make it safe but yet effective. And we want this to be from the average person, the basic athlete to the most elite athlete. And so that's why there's the pre-fatigue protocol that's involved. So if you really have that high-level athlete, you really want to see how he does. Fatigue him first, then come in here. So maybe, after he did the run test, maybe be a good time to get him in doing that. You want him to be a little bit tired with it. So, but there was that wide range. As far as the age, which is a lot of people ask, I believe it's about 12 or 13 they don't want to be able to do this. So you don't want to do it on kids below that level. I've got a 10-year-old daughter. I was dying to do it on her, but I stayed away from, well, she's in Taekwondo and this type of stuff. I'm dying, so in a year I can test her. So she'll be 12 in a year. So because that's what we're looking at, single leg stand stuff. And again, not just for your basic sports, we're looking at a lot of other sports. Your martial arts and some of your dance. Your therapist works with a company for gymnastics. So there's tons of injuries in those type of sports.
One of the things that's exciting about it too is just you can tell that it's kind of a rapidly research field right now. A lot of that literature was coming out over the last 4 years or so, and we're just now getting access to technology like this, and it's just now So I do think it'll be kind of ever evolving, and which is pretty exciting, and pretty cool to see. One, how it's going to impact our patients, and two, how we might be able to use it to impact the athletic community and for injury risk and performance enhancement as well. So.
All right, give it a hand. Thank you.
Any questions? Other questions?